Okay, welcome back to day 8 of learning math as an adult. And so for this video, I basically was talking to someone and they were like, "Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "That's a great question. Let me spend time and actually think about this and write my thoughts down so it's not just me blabbing." So I did that, and so I wrote a little blog thing that I'm going to read called "Why I'm Relearning Math as an Adult." So also, this is my first time reading it aloud, so if things sound weird, maybe I'll be copy editing, but whatever. Okay, why I'm relearning math as an adult. I've always said I'm bad at math, but that's not necessarily true. Growing up, I did fine. I got A's, I passed tests, I moved on, but I never felt like I actually learned math. I memorized just enough to get through to the next exam and then promptly forgot it. There was no real curiosity, no desire to sit with it, no sense that it mattered beyond the classroom, and for a long time, it didn't. So, this isn't a story about a dramatic failure or a moment of embarrassment that pushed me to relearn math. There was no single breaking point. Instead, it was much quieter than that. I'm an adult now, and I realized something very simple. I finally have the time, space, and freedom to learn things without needing a reason beyond wanting to understand them. There are no tests, there are no grades, and there is no pressure to move fast. It's just learning. Why now? Recently, I moved into my own apartment. Living alone has given me more mental space than I expected. There are fewer distractions and much more room to notice what I'm curious about when no one is telling me what I should care about. Around the same time, I started noticing how much numbers show up everywhere in my life, especially at work. For example, I know I need to be much more metrics oriented, and for me, that doesn't mean memorizing KPIs or staring at dashboards. It means actually understanding numbers at a foundational level. Basic math is the language underneath everything else. What surprised me most was how quickly that curiosity spilled into other parts of my life. Once I started paying attention, I began seeing math everywhere, in how kitchens are designed, in architecture, in space and proportion and systems that I'd never thought twice about. It wasn't suddenly that math became useful, it was that it became visible. What relearning math actually feels like. The hardest part has been realizing how little I remember. Even concepts that once felt familiar are very fuzzy for me now. That can be humbling. Long division is harder than I remembered. But the most satisfying part is when something simple clicks. Not because it's impressive, but because I finally get it. Not in a I can pass the test way, but in a this makes sense and I could explain it to someone else way. I've also been surprised by how slowly I want to go. There's no rush. I am not following a syllabus. There are no deadlines. I want to understand things deeply, even if they're basic. And yes, I started with basic addition and subtraction. And for the first time, I'm not learning to move forward, but I'm learning to build a foundation that I can actually stand on. That process has been unexpectedly calming and fun. Learning as an adult. Relearning math hasn't challenged how I see myself as a competent adult. Competence is not tied to knowing one particular thing. If anything, this experience has made me realize how fun it is to stay curious. I don't feel the pressure of I should already know this. I truly don't. I could live my entire life without relearning math and be completely fine. Nothing bad would happen. But that's kind of the point. I'm doing this because I want to, not because I need to. It's also changed how I think about learning in general. I'm not trying to move fast or check a box. I want to understand things well enough that I can apply them elsewhere. I can already feel how this approach will shape how I learn other things next, like physics, the universe, AI, which is a personal favorite, topics that feel very intimidating until you realize that they're built on fundamentals. How I'm doing it. There's no rigid system. I posted a TikTok about wanting to relearn math as an adult and ended up with really great YouTube recommendations. I practice a little every day, and I bought a textbook called Math Refreshers for Adults to give myself structure when I need it. But if something sparks my interest, I follow it. I went from exploring long division to the history of algebra to mathematical proofs. I would say that the biggest difference from school. I would say that has been the biggest difference from school. I'm not learning in a straight line anymore, but I'm learning in a way that mirrors how my curiosity actually works. What this represents. This isn't really about math, although I am loving it. It's about choosing to see the world in a more curious lens. It's about slowing down, rebuilding foundations instead of assuming that they're already there, about reminding myself that learning can be fun when it's not attached to performance. Math just happens to be the place I started because I see it as so foundational to everything else. The quiet belief I want to challenge. Somewhere along the way, many of us internalize the idea that learning is something you finish. That once you're done with school, curiosity becomes optional or impractical or indulgent. I don't think that's true. Relearning math as an adult is reminding me that it's genuinely fun to learn. Not for productivity, not for validation, just for the joy of understanding something a little better than you did yesterday. And if you've been avoiding a subject for years, math or anything else, maybe the question isn't, when will I need this? Maybe it's, what would it feel like to be curious about this again? So that was my brain dump in a more articulate way.